born in Nigeria, and didn't stay there very long. Um, my dad was in the military, so he moved around a lot. A lot of what I remember is from my youth is living in Germany. We were there for 7 years, and I think that's where like I got kind of more in tune with myself and creativity and kind of dabbling into that. My parents were very creative. They would paint murals together and just create things, just like random doodles and stuff. And so I think, of course, it's genetics. um, so I appreciate it kind of having exposure to that and them just allowing me to be my creative self without monitoring it too much. But I said I was born in Nigeria. My dad's Nigerian, so of course school came first, and then of course it's like doctor, lawyer, engineer, wasn't an artist or designer or anything like that, but look at me now. So I would say my creativity really started with like drawing books and just like my escapism of like I would isolate myself and just be creative because it was just I could be in my own self, my own mindset, etc. Um, Fast forward to where we moved to the States. Bullying became I just never knew about bullying, and so I was bullied because I was the smart kid, and I was like, why was somebody bullying me for being smart, etc. So I kind of just just stopped raising my hand, answer questions and stuff. I was like, well, I know I'm smart, so I don't have to like put it out there. And I would say I wasn't like into art or anything like that. I just knew I had an artistic, creative bug in me. Like I would literally have visceral reactions to when I would see something that just like looked really well or was designed really good or like it just made me feel something like walking into a room or like a warm embrace it felt like, etc. So I knew those types of things like got my energy roaring in terms of creativity. So through high school, middle school, I was active in sports. I love sports. I played volleyball, softball, flag football, but then I was also involved in other extracurricular activities like playing an instrument and all the smart stuff, all the smart shit, science fairs, etc., etc. Because of course my dad, Nigerian. So kind of fast forwarding to I'd say the end of high school. I knew I was a great artist, but constantly kind of hearing that language of my dad, like, okay, that's great, but like, how are you going to make money? What are you going to do as an artist? And I was like, okay, well, I guess when I go to college, I'll major in pre-med and, minor in art or something, just so I can still kind of get my taste of, being creative. And so I did that. I majored in, I actually ended up majoring in psychology, which served me really well because I'm such a head person and I like to get to know things and dig a little deeper about why people do things. And I've noticed that ties in really well with my career now. Whereas, my clientele, everybody's different, right? So I like kind of getting to know the levels and the questions that I ask in my questionnaires where people are like, why are you asking me, to open my closet and, tell me what you see in there or three, words to describe your family. I'm like, all of this matters. just know that. And so I went to Wright State University, again, psychology. Where I lived, the dorm, folks would kind of like walk by because we leave our door open all the time. Folks would be like, "Oh my gosh, your dorm room is so pretty. It's so cute." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I just threw something together." Like, "Can you do mine?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Of course." So that started to be a thing, and I was known for like doing people's dorm rooms, etc. So that was kind of fun, just kind of escaping from college life and etc. Moving on, so I graduated in 2006, but I think I just still felt unfulfilled in terms of my career, in terms of where I was going next, etc. That's when I moved to Atlanta after I graduated in 2006, and I got my career going in what was I doing? A little bit of everything. I was in education for a little bit. Of course, I had like a serving job on the weekends to bring some cash in, but mostly working in education. And I got my first apartment, like my very own apartment. It was a studio back in 2008. But one of my good friends came over and he's just like, "Oh my gosh, Stephanie, like your place is so awesome." I was like, I just wanted it to feel good, right? And so he was like, "Have you ever thought about like design or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm already graduated. What am I going to do?" And so he got me in touch with someone at the Art Institute of Atlanta. Unfortunately, they were no longer accredited, etc. Fine. But at that time, he got me in touch with somebody there. Long story short, I was accepted there. And then with their accreditation issues, I kind of had to just like stop because they were no longer accredited. And so one of the professors that I interacted with there was Dr. Chapin. And I remember her saying, like, you already have a degree. Like, why are you going back to get a bachelor's degree in interior design? And I'm like, because I don't have exposure in interior design. Like, I don't have a degree in this, but I know I'm good. So she was like, you can get a master's degree. I said, even without having a background in design? Hold up. And so I listened to her, but then I went into thinking like, okay, like what would this look like? Like what design school could I go to? Because I already tried the Art Institute of Atlanta. We see how that ended up. And so she was actually a professor also at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, specifically in the Atlanta campus. And so I started looking at SCAD. And I remember getting a catalog at my house and looked at the tuition of their graduate program. And I was like, ain't no way. Like, ain't no way. For a graduate degree, in interior design. And so I prayed about it and just kind of tossed it out. So I had mentioned like being a server. I was working at Chili's at that time, and I had some regulars that would come in, and I was talking to them about like wanting to go to SCAD and apply there, and they paid for my application fee, and they were just really like, we want to see you do well, and they really supported me in moving forward. They're an amazing family. And so I was like, all right, well, let's see. And there was a couple scholarships I applied for. One was an educator's scholarship, and then the other one I cannot remember right now off the top of my head. But essentially everything boiled down to 50% off of tuition. And I was like, that's great, but 50% off the tuition is now like regular tuition plus a couple thousand. And so I was like, all right, I guess it's meant to be. I put a portfolio together, and that was just literally art that I had done. One of my friends came over, we taped stuff up to my wall, he photographed it, and I submitted that as my portfolio for an interior design program, and they loved it. They loved and I was like, oh, this has nothing to do with design. This is just art. So they just saw that as like a creative person, etc. So I got 50% off tuition. I was accepted to the program. And at that time, I was still working at the school. I was still working on the weekends at Chili's. And so I took that graduate program on as like my third job, right? I'm like, okay, I'm not straight out of a bachelor's program. Like this isn't for play for me. So I have to really just like work really hard. I didn't know AutoCAD or any interior design software. I literally learned that on the job. It's like as I'm going, I'm hand drafting and all of that, and edits that I would have to make. I'd have to start over. And I remember one of my classmates, her name was Zorge, and we still keep in touch till today, but she was like, I can teach you AutoCAD. I'm going to teach you the basics. That'll get you through and you'll be able to move forward. I'm like, okay. So she taught me. And when I was able to just like, like do my projects in AutoCAD and not like, and just feel like I was really supposed to be in interior design, at least in that way. I really excelled. And let's see. So graduate school, fine. I got my degree, graduated, and I'm like, all right, so now what? Right. I had thought about having my own business. I never really saw myself like working for somebody, but it was, if I was working for somebody, it was like consultative, like offering my services to them. And I was like, I might as well start I should just start my company. And so I remember I went to lunch with my mom and I said, I think I know the name of my business. It's going to be 1215. So that's December 15th when I was born. I chose that because, yes, Stephanie is my name. It's my middle name. My first name was Ofuneka, right? And as a child coming up, okay, Ofuneka was hard. And I'm like, this actually means something. It means one powerful woman or one supreme woman who's above all, etc. So I had Ofaneka, but then my last name was Asaloi, which means, one who walks with wisdom, etc. So Ofaneka Asaloi, I'm like, how can I apply that to a business? Let's just use something that'll never change, because now, being married and etc., my name has changed. So I went with 1215 Design Studio, and I started off kind of really word of mouth, with clients in Atlanta. And I that's the best marketing I've ever experienced, is word of mouth, because birds of a feather. So I was working with some really great folks. I've worked on projects where I have to sign NDAs and I still can't talk about, which is crazy, or can't show that work on my website. But I was really kind of getting into what I wanted my business to feel like, and just getting started and trying not to, overwhelm myself with all the systems and processes, etc. So always had a job, but I treated this as another job. And I saw my work that I was doing, I guess my W-2 job, as the investors into my business. So I was like, okay, whatever money I get here, I can apply here, etc. And that worked out fine. And then I started working with Jacobs Engineering, pretty big company. I was doing architectural assessments, so going around to different projects. We worked with Amtrak, where we assessed their train stations, a lot of National Guard buildings, federal courthouses, etc. So I had a lot of exposure to that type of clientele. But on the side, I was still just doing 1215. There came a point when I was traveling 60% of the year, so running 1215 became a challenge. Fast forward a lot to 2020. My husband and I had just got married in February, literally right before the pandemic, February 22nd. And so traveling most of the year, we were just kind of like, okay, like, what are we doing, right? Like, are we still traveling? What are we doing? And so we got back on the road, and this was in May. And I remember I was on a project in Tennessee. So my job kind of required me to be gone for 2 weeks, home for a week, gone for 2 weeks, home for a week, gone for 2 weeks. And sometimes, depending on where I was, I would just spend the weekend wherever I was, or come home and then go back. But this time I was in Tennessee. I think it was Memphis or somewhere, Humboldt or somewhere. And I went to like a random Joanne Fabrics or something. I was like, I'm just going to get some creative stuff and see what I can put together or whatever. And literally, I kid you not, as I'm walking out of Joanne Fabrics, I hear the Lord say, it's time to quit your job. And I said, an after work party with coworkers. Huh? I'm like, was that me or was that you? And then I get in the car and he's like, it's time to go. And I just remember yelling, like I screamed. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, and do what, Lord? Like, quit my job and do what? He's like, you already have it all running and set up. And so I told my husband, I was like, the Lord said that I should quit my job. And he said, okay. He said, well, I can't argue with what the Lord told you. So you better, guess you got to quit your job. And I said, well, we just got started back on the road, the pandemic, etc. Maybe I'll give them a couple more months, And he was like, give them their 2 weeks and get out there. You don't want to be on the bad side. You don't want to just, listen to the Lord, but not, execute. So I quit my job. Mind you, I was making great money. Insurance was top tier, etc. And the work that I would do was just kind of, it wasn't mindless, but I just knew what I was doing and would go out, do it, come home. And then meanwhile, Jacobs was still my investor into my business. So I quit my job in 2020. And the crazy thing was I was already working on projects while I was traveling. And I'm like, oh yeah, I am. Like, I'm able to manage this. Like, I'm able to do this, Stephanie. But sometimes the enemy will just be like, yeah, girl, you doing this, but how you gonna pay your mortgage? How you gonna pay for your water bill? How you gonna do this? I could not think of any of that shit. I was like, okay, all right. Because God said to quit my job. He got something planned, right? He got something in mind. I'll be good to go. The pandemic taught me that business is essential. Like, having your systems and processes in business is essential. And so, of course, everybody's in their houses. looking up and down and around, and like, this is some bullshit. It's like, what do I live here, but like, geez, it sucks, you know? So people just started reaching out and reaching out and reaching out. So being out in business, like fresh, full time, I was just taking on, I won't say any client, but like folks who would come up, I'd be like, sure, I'll take your project on. I learned really quickly that not everybody is meant for me, because those projects that I would take on, that was like, oh, you shouldn't have did it, baby girl. Gave me the biggest headache, right? And then I lost money. So I started to become more selective with projects that I would take on, people I would deal with, etc. When I moved here to Cincinnati, I was, one of the things I knew was that at least the Midwest is behind in design and like trends a good 5 to 7 years. So I had an advantage. I was like, okay, my design style is already quite unique. Loads of color, texture, everything. And so I'm like, I don't know that there's any designers. And when I say designers, like big D designers, right, that have a degree or really certified and know what they're doing, that are here. So I was like, okay, I'm a Black woman with a master's degree in interior design. There are no, like, how many Black women interior designers are here in Cincinnati? Like, maybe one, confidently. Yeah, stagers, yeah, this, but designers, none. So I leveraged these things and marketed my business in a way that was just like, okay, here you go. And I started being known for certain things. And then my projects would end up in magazines. Like I was in HGTV magazine. I was one of the 2023 Faces of Design and Lux Interiors magazine with Benjamin Moore. So all these opportunities were coming up, social media, etc. And as much as I was like, all right, Lord, like I'm doing this, but I don't want to lose touch of the other things that I know I wanted to do. Like that's not even design related, right? So, yeah, business is great. Running a business, there's sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna quit. Like, why am I doing this? Like, let me just go get a W-2 and just call it a day. And every time I think about it, I'm like, but girl, no, you can't do that. You don't want to do that. So one of the things I would tell, especially younger Black women who are interested in entrepreneurship, is you know more than you think you might know to start your business. Treat it as professional and go through the right channels, and of course like set your business up legally, all of that, because it'll really pay off, right? Because you'll get into it 2 years, you're like, well, I didn't have an accountant, or I wasn't running my QuickBooks and this came up, and and taxes. One of the things I was thinking, I was like, do I really, I'm like, I'm deciding to pay taxes out here with a whole business, right? So there's just things like that I think for some people, they're like, this is my little business, but treat it as though it's not. And of course, Black women are scrutinized a lot in entrepreneurship. We are the leading in terms of data in in entrepreneurship and having businesses and all of that. And while I think that is great, we still don't have the amount of support that I think that we should when it comes to running a business, or even having a community of people to say, hey, I understand what you're going through, I have these resources, etc. So that's another thing I would highly advise, is like, you're not an island. You can't run your business on your own. You need help. You need input. So reach out to people and do your research. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to, not do it anymore. But just stay the course, especially if you know that it's God ordained, one, and if you know that it's something that you really are interested in moving forward, and how you can serve the kingdom of God with the work that you do, etc. And really, when I think about design and serving the kingdom of God, I'm like, okay, well, how does this really do that? And I'm like, Stephanie, like, you are beautifying homes, and I never take it lightly that I'm able to go into folks' homes and like do my thing, right? I'm beautifying homes. This is where people lay their heads, talk about their lifestyles, raise their kids, create their families. Like, home is just a sacred space. And I'm blessed to go into these spaces. These people want me to come in and freak it up. So I never take that lightly. And because of the work that I do and the professionalism and just, my quirkiness and who I am, My clients just, they refer me to other people. And I think earlier just today I was talking about birds of a feather, right? So I'm noticing that a lot of my clients here know one another. Oh, this person knows this person, or this client. I was like, oh, I'm working for these people. This is their last name. Like, oh, this is my doctor. And oh, this is so. I know Cincinnati is a smaller city than Atlanta, but it's still very well connected. And I just know that being here, I'm just meant to do something bigger than just design. And I'm excited to see where that's continuing to go. I've got some exciting stuff that I just found out about 2 days ago that's pretty big on a national level in terms of my work. And that's good. But I really give all the glory to God, and just even in the times of like looking in your bank account and being like, how I have an employee, how am I going to play this employee? Then all of a sudden something comes and you're good. So there are times when, you're going to feel that way and you're going to be exhausted and tired and not know how to move forward. But God makes a way, even when you're like, okay, I really can't pay my employee. So how do I make this work? And the last thing I want to say, especially people who are in creative businesses, don't base the success of your business off of financials only. That will get you in a place of depression, etc. Set your goals, but what are other markers that can say like, hey, like I'm really doing this. Like I really wanted to have this type of client and I am, like I really wanted to do these particular types of projects, whether that's a commercial project, or I want to do, I don't know, a wine bar on top of the residential stuff that I do. So there's so many other markers of success in your business, outside of financial gains. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I really love what I do. I really do. I really do. I love what I do. I love being creative. I love that I'm able to do it in like just in the way that I love to do it. There's a thin line though, because of what I do, like design wise, it's like, okay, like I need to sometimes like turn that creative brain off and let it rest because it'll keep going and going and going. Even like just today, I was in here like, okay, I like this. I want to do this for this project. And this is a new project. I want to do this and do that. I'm like, Stephanie, you ain't even have the contract signed just yet. Slow down, baby girl. And I'm like, I know, but I know I'll have the project. So business wise, get your contract signed before you start, getting creative with stuff. But creative wise, you can always dream. So I do really love what I do. I cannot imagine doing anything else. Yeah, besides just like feeding the hungry and just serving people who need love and support and etc. So my goal is to come to a point in my business to where I want to just bless people and I don't want people to know that it's me. I don't need my name to be like, oh, Stephanie donated $1 million to like, okay, fine, but I don't need people to know that was me. Take the donation. Wonderful, and I can help somebody else. And it just really just reminds me of how I was as a child too, just the ways that I would help people and people are like, you're so kind, and I'm like, it's just who I am. So I love what I do. I really do. So good luck to Black women who are interested in entrepreneurship, or Black women, whatever you want to do, find support. Find support. We're out here to all do well. So and Black women, be receptive to folks who ask for support, right? What's for us is for us. So don't take it as competition or, oh, I don't have time. Or, this person wants me to be their mentor, etc. Just take a beat, okay? And realize that you were once there too. You were once there. So that's it. I'm excited.